Hi everybody, Eve Everett, and today we're going to talk about what's sold on eBay. Ephemera, vintage items, hats, etc. All kinds of neat, interesting, and weird things that makes eBay what it is. But first, a few minor points of interest. First one being, if you ever get into selling antiques and collectibles, which I really suggest you do, one of the invariable things you're going to run into are dead bodies, and hopefully not of the human type, but definitely of the animal type. Here I have a box of Fire King, and there's quite a few pieces in this box, and I try to kind of be aware on a permanent basis of you'll never quite know what you're going to find sometimes in boxes. And of course, the one time I let down my guard because I'm doing other things, I'm unwrapping stuff, and lo and behold, surprise, it's a skeleton of a dead mouse. Yay. Ugh. That's not something you want to find, I'm telling you. But, you can't be too squeamish, unfortunately. I mean, it does happen once in a while. Apparently, this got wrapped and put away, and at some point long before I ever bought and got my hands on this, some poor unfortunate mouse crawled into this box and died in it. And then years passed, and here you go. So naturally, I took everything out. I boiled my hands. Like, my hands were, I think I gave myself like second-degree burns. I mean, like I said, I grew up in the country, so I really shouldn't make a big deal about this, but I've been on this anti-mouse crusade, and I don't know. I guess the creator was kind of winking at me and going, haha, here you go. So, yeah, there you go. Like I said, it's an occupational hazard. You are going to run into it. I bet some of you already have, and if you have, let me know. I'd like to not feel alone in finding skeletons in boxes of antiques. So I just wanted to take a second to talk about a few things that were on my mind. First of them being, when was the last time you took a hard look at your inventory? Have you done that in a while? Not done that in a while? Think about it, because what I generally do every year is I will just go through this purge, and I just had an auctioneer here carry off literally like one of those extension vans, just packed of stuff. It was either things that I know I just don't have any interest in posting. Take these for example. I'm sure if I really analyze every single one of them, I'd find something interesting, but I just don't feel like it, and I want to make sure the auctioneer has some things that he likes, so that he'll do as good of a job for me as he possibly can. So I let these go. But another thing that I do once a year at least is I take a good look to see, like, when I price my items to resell, I'm trying to stay somewhat in the range of saleability. I mean, I know some people have their theories on how things sell, and I do put best offer on most of my things anyway, but I'm still looking at comparables, okay? I mean, let's face it, if you're selling something and you research it and there's maybe several other things that are the same or similar to yours, and you're not thinking about comparables, your stuff's going to sit up there for a long time on eBay and make it far more long tail than it needs to be. That's not to mean that you should be rushing to the bottom. It just means that you should be applying your common sense and thinking about balancing price against getting it out the door. Now, the reason I say that is because I had several items that, well, more than several items that I had priced, and maybe at one time the comparables were fine for what the price I had on it, but then time passed, they sat, and for whatever reason didn't sell, and I went through based on the oldest items that were up there, and I kind of repriced everything, and out of 30 items that I repriced, I sold a third of those items within a week. So that's saying something. Sometimes we price something and then the price for that item changes over the course of a year or months, and you just have to really stay on top of that, because obviously it's not like Amazon when you just have a repricer. eBay's a far different animal, so you're the repricer, and it's kind of important that you keep on top of that stuff, or at least have a an organized procedure for how you go about dealing with your inventory periodically. You just don't want to have a bunch of junk collecting, and then 2 years from now you're like, oh my God, my house has been taken over by, Pokemon and snapback baseball hats and so forth and so on. You just want to keep things moving and making money for you. All right, so moving on to what's sold. One of the great things about eBay is you can make bets with people on what will sell on eBay. And this item is a caterpillar, and he was 13 feet long, and he had 21 pairs of feet. And I'm at the weigh and go months ago, the Goodwill weigh and go. And this lady, I say girl, do you ever do that? You call yourself like a girl instead of a woman? What is that? It's some psychological thing I don't want to know, right? Anyway, I ran into a lady that she was holding this up and looking at it. And I thought it was the coolest thing. I'm like, that is so cool. And I know that she's a reseller, so I said to her, I said, how much do you think you'll get for it? And she's like, oh, I don't know. She's like, I don't think that this is going to sell on eBay. I said, are you kidding me? I said, that is exactly the sort of thing that would sell on eBay. And I bet you, I said, if I bought that, I would have that sold in 3 months. She's like, fine, I'll make a bet with you. I said, okay, we're on. And I took this home. And I originally had it up for $129.99. Yeah, I know, $129. I must be crazy, right? Well, they're actually, if you look at the solds on these, maybe it doesn't reflect that now. But at the time that I had posted this, a couple of them had sold anywhere between $90 to $150. But none of them were exactly like mine. Mine by far was cooler. But anyway, with the best of intentions, I put this up for $129. And, I was in love with this thing. But anyway, it was in great shape, and I ended up actually selling this for $50 plus shipping, and that ended up taking me under 2 months to sell. So, of course, now I haven't seen this lady at the weigh and go for a while, but next time I do see her, that lady owes me some money. And it's just cool to know that I was right. Oh, I know. Did I just do like the whole Simpson thing there? And I didn't do it well either. But anyway, here's another item that you can get an idea in terms of what weird offbeat things, well, weird and offbeat in my opinion, sell on eBay. This is a Pharmaceutical Rep Beanie for Flonase. And when I researched this, there were none. Not even remotely comparable. So I put it up for $25, and I took a best offer of $23, and that took me, let me see here. Looks like it took me about almost 4 months to sell that. But I did get $23 for it, shipped that to PA. And let me tell you, if you go through the pharmaceutical drug rep items on eBay, you'll find that some of them do pretty well, and I find especially with like the painkiller medicines and the like things like Prozac's not a painkiller, but you know what I mean, like things that they're names that stand out in some way in terms of pharmaceuticals. They tend to do okay. So if you're out, like I think you've seen, I've sold cups that say Prozac on them. I've sold some other pharmaceutical things, but this is one of the more interesting contemporary pharmaceutical things that I've sold. But it's good to keep an eye out because they will move. I mean, pharmaceutical reps that do well do extremely well, so they can certainly foot the bill for a beanie. All right, moving on. Here we have a pair of McGregor yellow gingham striped polyester pants. I had these in my inventory for a very, very long time. I'm going to be honest with you, I did a bad eBay seller thing, which was to not take measurements of this item. It was up for a very long time. People asked me, at least over the course of an entire year, measurements please. And I'm like, yeah, I'll get around to it. And then I never did. Finally, when I started doing my purge, I realized that I was a real jackass about this, and I went in and I put the measurements in, and it sold 2 days later for 35 bucks. So there you have it. That is the quintessential lazy person. Please don't do that. Oh, and in case you're wondering if I take my life seriously, I probably should take it more seriously than I do. I just don't. Anyway, here we have a public service bus transit guide for the state of New Jersey from the, looks like 1936. I posted 2, and they're just booklets. And I sold these in 4 days for $44.99. They shipped those to California. In the same department, I have these New Jersey Atlantic Gas Station road maps from the 1930s. I loaded them up in a group of 4 after looking at how they would do. And these did take me a little longer to sell, but I did move them. I sold these for $22, and that took me about 20 days. Or actually, no, not 20 days. That took me, I can't add. It took me 14 days to sell those, actually. Shipped them to Massachusetts. Here we have a New Jersey State Police baseball hat. And I sold this for $33.99 to someone in New Jersey. That took me about... It took me about 2.5 months to sell. I did have that on best offer, but they snapped that up for $33.99. Moving along, we have another baseball hat. This is a camo hat by Mossy Oak. And I sold that for... I had it up for $23, and for some reason I took a best offer for $14 plus shipping, and I sold that in under 3 months. Here's another hat that I... probably undersold, but this is a 80s London Fog Houndstooth Newsboy. They're not too hard to find. It had a cool color scheme, and I guess that's why I liked it. Wool blend. I had it up for $29, and I accepted a best offer of $15. Shipped that to New Hampshire. So shipping ended up being like $2.60, so with fees and everything, I ended up making $9.51. Woohoo! But hey, I'll take it. All right, here we have a Jameson Whiskey Distressed Green Hat. It took me a little under 2 months to sell this. I shipped it to France. I sold it for 20 bucks plus the shipping. Actually, my profit ended up being like around 25 bucks on this. The actual shipping was $12.83. So, didn't do too bad there. Anyway, I do not use the global shipping program because for the buyers it's a real pain, and given the value of our dollar vis-a-vis other currencies, I try to make buying from me as easy as humanly possible. So I have found that the global shipping program is almost universally hated by people from overseas. Although yes, it does have its advantages to us here. I just find overall that doing it my way, I get more customers overall. And quite frankly, knock on wood, my return rate overall floats around 1.8% and has for many years. So returns and pain in the butt customers aren't a real significant concern for me. So I really don't worry about it, which is one of the reasons I don't use a global shipping program. All right, moving on. All right, look, I bought it, I sold it, all right? Now, there are some things I will not sell. This obviously is not one of them. I don't know why anyone would want to have a Trojan brand hat in Florida, but hey, they can be my guest. I had this up for $27.99. I took a best offer of 20 bucks, and I shipped this out to this person who I guess was very happy to wear a Trojan condom hat on their head. Makes total sense. All right, so this is a Belfast vintage, it's basically a tobacco tin, right? And, it's a little rusted out on the bottom, and it's not in ideal condition by any stretch of the imagination. I posted it for $22.99 on eBay, and I got contacted by a guy in Ireland who says to me, hey, next week I'm having this huge anniversary party, and I'm looking for all the Belfast cut plug tins that I can find. Can you have it here in 5 days And oh, by the way, I only paid $10 for it, and I really don't want to pay a lot for shipping. And so I get back to the guy. I'm like, look, I understand what you're doing, and the reason he wanted Belfast tins is because his bar is located near the place where I guess these were originally made. So he wanted to have this whole theme. And look, I understand. I'm willing to go out of my way to help people who want to do stuff like this. I got no problem with it. But, asking me to sell it to you for $10 and then ship it to Ireland in a few days, but you don't want to spend a lot on shipping. I mean, what do you want from me? Do I look like I have like a transporter? If I had a transporter, would I really be selling things on eBay? But I digress. So we're going back and forth, and I'm trying to explain to him, it's like, look, I don't control the price of the mail here. If you want it in an expedited time and you want it to get there in decent shape, you're going to have to pay for that. And I'm trying to explain that to him, and this is still up for $22.99 on eBay, by the way. In the meantime, some guy from North Carolina swoops in and buys it. So I don't know. I was glad to see that happen, but at the same time, I felt kind of bad about it. So anyway, $22.99, and that took me. Actually, that took me some time to move. I had that up since around Thanksgiving of 2015, and it took me until the beginning of October of 2016 to sell it. So anyway, interesting story. There you have it. $22.99 for a decrepit-looking Belfast tin. Alright, so I have this box of Star Wars figures from the 1980s, and I grew up with these, and I basically chewed on every single one of them at some point in my young existence. Although this one looks like it escaped the fray. Maybe my mother pulled it and put it aside so I wouldn't destroy it. But anyway, I sold this Yoda with his little stick and his snake for $74.99. And it took me under 12 days to sell that, ship that to Florida. Alright, look, I am not going to lie to you. This is a weird thing to see and sell, but if you can, pick them up because people buy them. This is a Tricotine liquid douche concentrate with its original box. I saw this at a thrift shop. I know that people collect these. They also collect like a lot of things similar along the same vein. I don't really understand why. I'm not sure I want to, but I like to try to be open-minded. And there are some things I'll never touch, like Maplethorpe, for example. Screw that. I am not selling that sort of shit. Excuse my language, but I'm willing to sell things that maybe others won't, and this is probably one of them. Anyway, there is a significant market for vintage items of this nature, and I sold this for $35. It took me under 3 months to sell that. So here's a nice lot of fine woodworking magazines. It was a lot of 8 of them. There was a few that had Tage Frid, T-A-G-E, last name Frid, F-R-I-D, some articles on him and about him, and he's still a big name in woodworking for hobbyists. I ended up selling these for $24, and it took me about 3 months to sell those. I've been lucky enough to grab a few John Deere things over the years, although I don't see as much here as I would like, otherwise I'd snap them up all the time. John Deere does fairly well. Here we have a Hallmark John Deere lawn tractor ornament. I mean, who does not want a lawn tractor on their tree? Anyway, it's actually a more difficult lawn tractor ornament to find. I mean, gosh, they're everywhere, right? I ended up selling this for $45. Shipped that to Virginia, and that took me a little under 5 months to sell. This is another Hallmark ornament. It's a 2006 Hallmark teddy bear band. It's a motion ornament. I don't think I tried it. I'm assuming it worked because the person never said anything. And I sold this for, actually I put it up for $25, and I took a best offer for $15 plus shipping. And got that out. I think that took me a little under 7 months to sell. Here we have a Wawa 50th anniversary goose pen, and you probably seen me sell Wawa items before. Anytime you have like a regional store brand. For some reason, I find that they're pretty easy to sell. And given that Facebook has an entire group dedicated to drunk at Wawa, Wawa items must have a fond place in people's hearts. I sold this for $32.99, and that took me about 6 months to sell. Shipped out to Pennsylvania. I don't see Colonial Williamsburg items too often around here, but when I do, I consider them because you can usually get a decent buck for them. Here we have 2 Colonial Williamsburg prints that I picked up at the Weigh and Go, and I sold those for, I put them up for $39.99, and I took a best offer of $25, shipped those to Ohio, and it took me about 2.5 months to move those. When I find them, I really enjoy selling vintage blank photo albums. I think that they move fairly well, and they are very easy to picture and put up. Also, you can ship them, well, maybe people would debate with me, but I have shipped these medium mail because I think that they fall under medium mail. Not the short definition, but if you grab the USPS guide to the long definition, I sneak them under there. But on the other hand, you never want to abuse shipping things medium mail, because when and if and when they do find you, if you go to ecommercebites.com, there's a very fascinating article about a guy who ripped off the USPS by the tune of about $350,000 worth of shipping that he should have paid, that he didn't because he was using medium mail and he shouldn't have been using it. I don't know how they figured out how much he would have paid, but they did, and he actually got jail time for that. So yeah, you have to be a little bit careful about that. But there's a couple interesting articles on e-commerce bites about people's misadventures on eBay and abusing the system and getting busted for it. So if you're ever bored, check that out. They are interesting to read. Anyway, this is a vintage floral photo album. It was basically blank with the exception of a few recipes. A very excited teenager bought it for me for $35, and that took me under a month to sell. Here we have a pair of vintage Joan and David brown suede boots, size 10.5. I primarily picked them up because of the size. They were a bit worn. The shoelaces were very worn. Some of them, the brown had actually worn away in spots, and I did note that in my auction. And I posted these for $59.99 and took a best offer of $40, shipped them to Texas, and it took me under 8 months to sell those. This is a Guns N' Roses 1991 Use Your Illusion concert tour shirt. I got this as part of that free pile of stuff that I picked up that I told you about a few episodes ago. This thing was a mess. It had holes in it. It was ragged. I did explain all that. I did reduce the price because of the problems that it had. Nevertheless, I did get $39.99 for that, and I sold it in 5 days, shipped that to LA. Here we have 2 vintage Lisa Frank purple and pink plush cats. And I don't see Lisa Frank as often as I would like, but when I do pick it up. If you look at Lisa Frank, she did those really cool, colorful 80s and 90s, like pencils and portfolios, folders, stuff like that. And then she did a line of plush. I sold these for $32.99, and it took me about 2 weeks to sell these. And to wrap things up for now, this is a vintage beloved Belinda Knickerbocker doll from the 1960s. She's got discoloration on her. This is a Raggedy Ann friend. I really did not know too much about it when I picked it up. Oh, there goes Bun again. Anyway, it's pretty cool to kind of learn about things by surprise. I got this, I brought it home, I priced it, and I was like, wow, that's pretty awesome. I listed this, and it sold in 2 days for $169. That's what I love about eBay. Boom. Am I right? Am I right? All right, guys, I got things I got to do here. You guys have a lot to do. Sorry to be such a chatty Cathy. I hope you enjoyed my video. I try to get them out every other week. It used to be every week, but it's just getting impossible to do that time-wise here for a lot of reasons. Basically, my personal life just overrunning me. Anyway, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, spread the word, etc. and so forth. I will see you guys out there. Good hunting.